Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Cleveland Browns post-game show. Tough loss, 23-16 to the New York Jets. This was a tough one from the beginning. I'm personally proud of the effort that the Browns gave in the second half of the game. They made a game of it. All you can ask in a situation like this, you have the ball in your hands and you have an opportunity to win the football game. And they had two possessions, one to be able to win the football game and the other to be able to tie the football game. And it just wasn't meant to be. This is the way the cookie crumbles. Personally, I stand with my team, and any people who don't stand with the team don't get on the air. So you can go ahead and take from that whatever you want to take from that, but tread perilously. Well, Jim, this was a tough one.
Yeah, it definitely, like you said, and this is really the truth, considering what they were dealt with at such a short period of time, they played rather well. Fortunately, the Jets were the Jets. How many times did they have 12 players on the field? How many, they're doinking field goals just like we are, 2 block kicks. They are a pathetic group of people. And the fact that we're still in the game, considering they got these guys from playing backyard, football 2 weeks ago, it was pretty incredible. You just don't have anybody to stretch the field, and you don't have the timing, and not to mention the defense. When you're missing basically your linebacking core and Taki, who's no hero, who's going to be probably a really good special teams guy down the line, but he's not a first round guy.
And he got hurt and got pulled out of the game. I mean, we were down to bare bones when all was said and done. COVID teams haven't won a game this year. And I mean, it does put you at a severe disadvantage. For the Browns, what it did is it congested everything to the middle of the field. And all the Jets had to do really was take away the tight ends in the middle of the field and force the Browns into what were more precision timing patterns with wide receivers who were just simply not familiar with the system that Baker Mayfield wasn't familiar with. We had a double move by Bradley that Baker overthrew, but you could see that the two men just aren't joined at the hip because they've never played together before. A lot of that, Harrison Bryant dropped a pass. Asking young players to step up in situations like this can sometimes be difficult. Parkey did his thing by doinking yet another, which guarantees the fact that he won't be with the team next year, and maybe not next week either. I mean, I think that there comes a point where you just kind of have to part ways with somebody who doesn't, have the mental strength to get the job done.
You got to have that kicker though when it gets to playoffs. And if we are going to get a chance to get to postseason, which we still have a chance. In fact, as of right now, we are the last seed getting in, the 7th seed, by virtue of tiebreakers. You got to have a kicker, and you just can't be missing extra points. I mean, good grief. Roethlisberger actually played a heck of a game today. 3 touchdowns, over 300 yards. So they're going to be ready to play, even though they're coming to Cleveland. And here's the other thing, with the limited number of fans that are able to go, Pittsburgh hasn't had any fans being able to go to any of their games. So they're going to be, selling children to come to the game if they decide to go.
The opportunity was there. The Colts blew it, and we had an opportunity to step through the door, and we didn't get it done. I personally believe that the Browns were at a severe disadvantage in this game, but the Jets did what they could to keep the Browns in the game. The Jets aren't a very good football team. But the Cleveland Browns, what we're seeing here from Grunge, Baker fumbling twice, costly, no question, the last sneak, which everybody knew what they were going to do before they did it, and they did not get enough drive, from the offensive line. It would have been stopped had he not fumbled the ball. That's
and you're missing Wills, and you're missing,
your running game was nowhere.
you're missing two of your starting linemen, and you're onto your third string left tackle. And the fact that they were able to go, he ended up over a little over close to 300 yards, I think, passing on the day, or over 200 something, even with a bunch of people, in playing the wrong position, tight ends playing the slot. It was a heck of a good try, but like they said about the Ravens, they forced them to play, even though they moved games around and stuff like that. They still had to play without their quarterback. They had to play without their starting running back. The Steelers have had to play without their starting running back half the game, the season.
But I don't think I've ever seen a circumstance in which one position was completely wiped out on a team, rendering their entire offense and the other two. And it's really not the other two, because we were playing with third string linemen. Harris was beat consistently, repeatedly. Lamb is just awful. And the second fumble grunge that you're talking about, Baker should have had a better timer in his head just to gotten rid of the ball rather than held the ball. But Lamb didn't hold his block. He was back there trotting around. His man got around him. The truth of the matter is you don't have, your best offensive lineman. You don't even have your second best offensive lineman. What you're stuck with are your third best offensive lineman. And I dare any team on both the right and the left-hand side to have to play with players who really are marginal, if best, NFL players to survive. You couldn't run to the right. You couldn't run to the left. And on more than one occasion, both right and left-hand sides were clearly beaten. I mean, Lamb and Harris especially, repeatedly being eaten alive. And it's a tough position for a rookie to walk into. But, man, you're on the roster. You got to put the big boy pants on. But, yes, I would say that Baker held way too long onto that football, and that really cost us. And, yeah, dropped passes, but again, look at who he's throwing to in the circumstance that he's throwing to them. First of all, every tight end who saw a ball over the middle was nailed the second they caught the ball. There was virtually nowhere to fit the ball in. So there was no chance for yards after catch in those situations. Those passes were designed to replace a running game that didn't exist because of the offensive line issues that the Browns had. And again, thanks, Rick, for the. That's about the extent of it, there were odd calls in this, blowing a play dead when we were picking it up and running it into the end zone. I've seen that consistently with the Browns, where why would you whistle a ball dead? Why would you do that on a play that you weren't sure the arm was moving forward? And when I saw it in slow motion, to be honest with you, it's purely a judgment call. And, that's a frame by frame replay thing. And somebody, I'm sure, will put that up frame by frame. Even Stenator said that he was squeezing the ball and his arm could not have been moving forward. But instead, even if they call it a fumble, we get the recovery, but we should have had a touchdown there. The thing that I remember most in this, that, the broken coverage, again, that has cost us all year, that allowed Crowder to score the 20th point of the game, that killed us. That was a backbreaker, because you just, we were running man coverage. And again, nobody behind, nobody there to pick up the guy they ran what was in essence a pick play, and there was no safety. And we've had the same issue with no safeties behind all year long. And it would figure that would come out and get us.
On that flea flicker, he was wide open as well there too. We everybody sold out for the run in the first half. So, I mean, But that's something we've talked about all season, is the fact that our defensive secondary is we're playing the same kind of thing. It's next man up situation, where we don't have our starting safeties that we would normally have. The good news is Harrison is scheduled to potentially come back next week. So that should help some in the back end. The question then becomes what's going to happen with the linebackers, though. What do they have left? Because they just may not have anybody left to be there. And you could tell they showed a spotlight on the rookie left tackle up against Miles Garrett. And you could just tell Garrett is still affected. Even a week later, he's still just gasping for air.
Well, I mean, there are people I know personally who have had COVID who have not been able to recover for weeks. And they're not professional athletes who are demanding a lot of their body. They're having a lot of difficulty walking around the block, for God's sakes. So, yeah, there are people who get hit so hard with this and the symptoms linger. We tend to focus only on people dying. But the fact is that this is bad news. It's and again, I'm not sure, Mogambi. I haven't even looked into it. The fact that the Colts lost means that we still hold a tiebreaker against them. But unfortunately, the Ravens will be in, the Dolphins will be in. Those are certainties just about in my mind, because the Bills now, it gets into, and I'm not sure even with seeding with the Bills and the Steelers, and I'm not sure at 12-3 what it all's going to mean. I haven't had a chance to look into it. Anybody in the chat room who wants to look online and see what it means mathematically, I'm more than happy to listen.
As of right now, Cleveland's scheduled, if things hold the way they are. Now, it doesn't say what's going to happen, but if everybody wins, Cleveland would be the 7th seed and play Pittsburgh back-to-back. Now, it doesn't say anything about Indy winning and us losing, and, it doesn't have anything there. So, yeah.
So what is the situation, though, with Pittsburgh and Buffalo? Will Pittsburgh and Buffalo, are they fighting for a seed position, and what is likely to happen in that scenario? We have, in my mind, no chance of beating Pittsburgh because we never beat Pittsburgh. And I don't think that it's going to be, and I don't think these players, I honestly believe, and there is a story to this that we probably don't know of how all of our wide receivers were close contacted when only one player, starting linebacker, was COVID positive. I have a feeling more positives are coming to the Browns organization. I find it hard to believe that 5 men were just, practicing unsafe behavior. If there was a group, believe me, there was a group bigger than 5. And I have to believe that Cleveland's season is going to be COVIDed and over. These players are not going to be able to play against Pittsburgh. And believe me, the league is not predisposed to doing anything. And they never considered postponing this game. And it's a damn shame because if we had our regular players, we would have easily won this. It's really an unfortunate thing. That's what we're discussing now, T. We're done. I don't know that we're done. Again, I'm not jumping to any conclusions. All I know is that we win a tiebreaker with the Colts and that we are tied with the Colts. The problem is the Dolphins win in our tie situation. They win the tiebreaker against the Browns. And the only thing that can happen is if Buffalo comes out and plays its starters and plays hard against the Dolphins and beats the Dolphins, and if we turn around and beat the Steelers, then we would have to be in, I would think. But it's too early to think about that. And I'm again. And Spinner Dave is saying Pittsburgh, he hopes, I think, will rest their starters because their seed isn't going to change no matter what. Well, then that would be the same thing with Buffalo, though. Okay, so again, what we're kind of looking at now is if Buffalo sit and Miami wins, then you have the Ravens, who are going to go through. I'm trying to do this in my head, and it's very difficult. The Dolphins, if Buffalo sits their players, they'll go through. We don't hold any tiebreaker against them. They hold a tiebreaker against us because of conference records. Best of my knowledge, that would leave us, and we know the Steelers would be, they win the division. So I still think that maybe it still would be between us and the Colts. I'm not sure.
Well, Colts still have a chance to win their division. If Tennessee loses, the Colts actually do have a shot next week. Tennessee plays Green Bay in the night game tonight. I think that's tonight. And then that's what's going on. And then the following week, see if it'll actually pop up for me. Maybe it will. There it is. It says the Colts play Jacksonville, which you would think they would win.
Yeah. Again, the opportunity was there, and I'm the first one to agree, Mark. Parkey, to me, is a guy who just, you can't have on a team. He's not reliable, and he has no self-confidence. I know I'm already a week ahead. Buffalo hasn't played yet. And, the bottom line with Buffalo, and Buffalo is playing who, Jim?
Buffalo's playing. I don't know. I know the Titans are playing. Let me go back one page. This is the problem of doing it on a different device.
This is true, Dave. We hold the tiebreaker against the Colts and the Titans, but the Titans are now a game ahead of us. So that there's no tie scenario.
Well, the Titans can be tied with us if they lose they're playing Green Bay.
Oh, they're playing.
They have a night game against theirs, so there's definitely a chance that we could still be in this 3-way tie with Tennessee, the Colts, and us, and a 4-way tie.
We win head to head against both of those teams,
right? But one of them will be the division champ. That's kind of the trick of this whole thing. One way or another, one of them is going to be the division champs. And so when you get to that part, hell with it.
Yeah,
it's not going real well. But yeah, that's what we have left to deal with. You have,
and if the Titans win, they clinch the AFC South, and then our only hope is, But again, it comes down to beating the Steelers, which we've had no ability to beat Ben Roethlisberger. And if you think they're not dangerous, ask the Colts today. Yeah. They were dead and buried, and once again, they somehow rise from the dead. So, this is.
They didn't have any trouble at all coming back, and Roethlisberger just being crazy.
Right. So hi, Bronk. How you doing, man?
What can I say? That was a very tense game. I was anxiety up to the max through the whole game.
Yeah. Titans play the Texans next week.
Texans.
No, I'm sorry, Jacob. I disagree. And if we have the same record as the Titans, we beat them head to head, and that is the first determinant is head to head, and we beat them. So I don't see how they could have a tie break over us. It wouldn't get into conference record. It would never get by the first layer, which is head to head. So that much I feel is true.
And the Dolphins have the Bills next week.
Right, and that's what I was talking about Buffalo, as far as whether Buffalo would play its players, not play its players. I mean, there's so much yet that we don't understand.
I'll try to look it up on the NFL.com website right now and see what.
Yeah, you might be able to give us.
So, as of going into the day, if the Browns had win a game and the Colts lose a game, then the Browns are in. So all the Browns have to do is win, obviously, but then they got to beat the Steelers, like we said. So
right, I mean that goes without saying at this point. Now Stefanski said, if we win next week, we're in. No, that's not true either. That's not true either, because if we end up in a tie with the Miami Dolphins, we're screwed. We're absolutely screwed, glued, and tattooed.
But we'll actually you'd have the Dolphins, the Titans, the Ravens, and one of those teams would win. We would end up either tied with the Titans or the Colts, and that would slide us into the last spot.
Yeah, maybe you're right.
That's the reason why you said that. So
And
it's just, but still, who knows who's going to be back next week?
well, I think the news is going to get nothing but worse. Right now, the what we call the hoax virus amongst idiots in this country, and I mean morons. I mean people who are potentially dangerous and sick people in the White House, dangerous and sick. You can see how this thing spreads. Stefanski's not going to get into specifics of how many guys became close contacts of B.J. Goodson and how it happened. There must be a story here, because B.J. Goodson just doesn't isolate with 4 wide receivers and say, that's it, guys. I mean, there must have been some group gathering. And if that happened, then that is going to be the reason why. And the Browns deserve not to make the playoffs. If the players congregated unsafely before this game, and this is the result of it, then it is all on the players. And you can't expect the coach to change the game plan.
That's why they stuck the Broncos, because they were all together in an unscheduled group meeting that they called themselves.
And what did
the NFL do? They said, sorry about your luck. You're going to have to find somebody to play quarterback in the NFL. And as we know, it's not easy finding somebody to play quarterback, as we've gone through the last 25 years.
Yeah, I mean, and again, if that's why the NFL said there's been no discussion, no conversation about postponing the game, that would make sense. And in that case, then Stefanski did not have the control of the players that maybe we'd hoped, and the players didn't have really. And I'm not going to blame Stefanski. You blame the players. They're grown-ass men. If that's the case, then they deserve to lose the game. They deserve not to make the playoffs. This is no different than any other business. It's a profession. And, I was talking to somebody today, and it was really crazy. They said, Mom, my wife is a nurse. And I go, oh, wow, man, that's frontline stuff. And, but she doesn't want to take the vaccine. She wants to wait until other people take the vaccine. And that will, and because there hasn't been a 4th level of testing. There's only been 3, and there should be 4. Let the others be the guinea pigs to bring it to the 4th level of safety, and then she'll take it. And I'm sitting there saying, then she needs to be fired. She needs to be terminated. You can't go into that line of work and take all the sweet, not the bitter. That's your job. That's how I feel about the football players too. I feel badly for nurses and for people in hospital settings who are overburdened. But if there is a vaccine that makes you sick for a day, but allows you to continue to do the job for people who are sicker than you, then you got to do it. And the football players have to put this shit aside. And this is the poison that the Republican Party has brought into this country. This is the poison, specifically here, the notion that my personal freedom to do this and this and this and this, it isn't. It's a collective, whether you like it or not. I'm not a socialist, but we live in a collective society. And when you're playing a team sport, you know how many people you let down when you behave like that. That is the bottom line, is that the players are responsible for one another in this instance. And I hope to God there was no ridiculous mass gathering, although I have a sick feeling that in the days to come, there are going to be more positive tests. And we're going to find out the truth about this. Joshua, I'm beginning to see that if we beat the Steelers, we are in as the 7th seed. And now it's just a matter of the Steelers, what they can accomplish and what their seed can be. And whether they're going to rest Roethlisberger. And if they're definitely into the playoffs, they might be wise to do so, because he's taking a beating out there. He's no kid. And, and again, and then at that point, you see what happens. But I'm not looking ahead and saying, all of our wide receivers are going to be back. And I know what our guys were tweeting. I don't even have COVID, damn it. That's what one of them said. Rashard Higgins said, I don't even have COVID, damn it. This sucks. Well, yet, if you were in a group gathering where BJ Goodson had it and you were in an enclosed area and you were all shouting and screaming and yelling, you got it. You got it. Don't listen to what the politicians say. You probably have it, and you're going to be tested every day between now and whenever. So the news will come out. Yeah, Bronk.
Well, there was an NFL report published today from Tom Pelissero saying that the Brown players were in the recovery pool area with BJ Goodson, and that's why they were labeled close contacts.
What is the recovery pool?
Recovery pool area. So maybe after a game or after a practice or something.
Well, they've shut down the facility again as well. So,
yeah,
sure, the recovery pool, which includes a hot tub and cold tub, is in itself a violation of COVID protocols, but the NFL medical experts look at cumulative time, distance, mask use, and ventilation in the area where exposure occurred to any positive individual. And if the threshold is exceeded in 2 or more of these categories, it's labeled a high-risk close contact.
So
NFL.com.
They did not know that BJ Goodson was positive, and it was after it was in the team facility, is what you're saying. And
I'm try to post this.
Yeah, because you were kind of mumbling through that, and I couldn't figure out where you were going with this.
So it was basically that trough where they brought in the boat motor like they had there for a major league, where they cranked it up.
Exactly.
Yeah, and again, if that could just be the bad luck of the draw. If you were around somebody you just didn't know, and if it was just in the regular course of the facility being open, that's just bad luck. One thing I did read is that the organization specified this had nothing to do with Christmas partying. That was something that came out of the organization, that they were not gathering together for Christmas. So that is the only thing I read that was even quasi-relevant to how our entire wide receiver core got wiped out. So,
we weren't even allowed to do that at work. So they canceled all the Christmas parties. I'm like, we're all working next to each other anyway. What's the difference at this point? But yeah. So that, it doesn't sound like it was a planned mistake like you're talking about, as far as like they were being irresponsible. They just got screwed in that situation. But who knows whether or not they're all going to test positive later in the week. That's why they do this. And look at what you're dealing with, Bronk, over in England, where they have a new strain.
Yeah, we have a mutant virus.
Yeah, and but there are variants that are found, and and somebody's urging me to take the vax. Well, the vax doesn't exist for me. If you're a frontline person, you're working in hospitals, it's available for you. And if you choose not to take it, and the damnedest part of it is they can't force you to. So, what a bad break that would be for a patient if they ended up with a nurse who refused to take the vaccine and ended up COVID positive and infecting patients in a hospital. There ain't no good thing to this. Once it's out, it's the genie's out of the bottle. It's very, very easy to contract this disease. And I have a very bad feeling that there are going to be other positive cases. And that brings us to Jedrick Wills. The coincidence of him being ill and being sick after he was the one who was identified, although he had tested negative 5 times, he starts showing symptoms. Symptoms of what? The fact that he was in COVID protocol to begin with tells me that there are some people who it takes up to 10 days for them to even show the primary symptoms of this thing. And that tells me that this thing was floating around the Browns organization much, much earlier And that becomes, again, a source of concern. So,
and when you have that many people confined, like you said, in a relatively small space, using the Browns indoor facility for training, using the weight room, using the recovery area, I mean, you've pretty much put yourself into that bubble of, once somebody gets it, it's going to spread all over the place. Now, my wife is a nurse in a nursing home, and
yes,
she is on the list to get it, but she's been moved back from an earlier group to now she's not sure exactly when she's going to get it. But
right.
she's been moved back a couple times. But she's like, heck yeah, I'm getting it as soon as I can.
Well, the good news is that she'll be getting the Pfizer variety, not the Moderna, and I have real questions about Moderna, but the Pfizer is supposed to be a little bit from a company that knows what it's doing, and has had success in the pharmaceutical industry. The Moderna is a company that's done nothing but raise its stock values for its shareholders. They've never released a medication to the public ever in their history since 2010. That's how old the company is. Never introduced a drug, never made it past the third phase of testing for any drug that they've attempted. And their stock went from $16 to $157 a share. So
I'm sure some politicians on both sides of the aisle got in on that deal.
Oh, I'm sure that somebody got a sweet deal. And fantastic. The answer is yes, you still need the vaccination. There's no indication yet that you may have antibodies, but nobody knows for how long. And in many instances, only a couple of weeks. So yes, you would need the vaccine, regardless of whether you had recovered from it or not. This is true. Some people have gotten COVID a couple of times. So you can see, yeah, you need the vaccine. We all need the vaccine. It's just a matter of who should get it first. As far as the Browns, and I agree here, we would have won this game if we had everybody, because we would have had the game plan that we worked on all week. That's what it comes down to.
I mean, as it stood, the Jets had more talent on the field today than we were able to muster. But the fact that we got guys that, from Louisiana Tech College, playing our number one wide receiver, I mean, it's just a nightmare.
Yeah. Obviously, somebody's telling me that I know nothing. Okay.
Oh.
All right. You believe what you want to believe. Yes, but we've known people who had COVID more than once.
But it's
close-minded, yeah.
It is kind of interesting, though, the one season when the Browns finally actually have a good year, we have this COVID year.
Oh, yeah.
Could you imagine what the city of Cleveland would be like in that stadium? It just be magical, absolutely magical. I remember the 95 year, or 90, I guess it was 94, right? Because we were gone. 95 was the last year they were there. So the 94 season where they played the playoffs, they played the Bills in the stadium, Clay Matthews with the interception. That place was electric, absolutely electric.
Yeah, but it might be better for these guys to have quiet in one regard, because can you imagine if in quiet, if in a roaring stadium, Parkey would have a stroke. I mean, seriously.
Well, he's been playoff tested with the Bear. Oh, never mind. Yeah,
does he have more doinks than made kicks or what?
Yeah,
man, what is going on with the
he was 17 of 20 going into the game as far as field goals, and then so and he made a field goal. That was good, but
the hilarious thing here is that they have a soccer pregame show, obviously, like you guys have an NFL pregame show. And they have this silly thing where they go to a team's practice ground and they have the crossbar challenge, where they try to hit the ball against the crossbar from like 40 yards out, and whoever gets it gets the prize. So they should get Cody Parkey to fucking do that.
Yeah, he'd win
every time.
And the same thing, Baker cost us the game.
That's idiotic.
Yeah,
what's he supposed to do, man?
The tendency for people today is to turn on people. This is in vogue, and it's because it's what's happening in our government. That's all the president of the United States does, is he points his finger at somebody else. To point your finger at Baker Mayfield, think of how many games we wouldn't have won without Baker Mayfield. We're in this together, for gosh sakes.
It's not his fault, man.
Yeah, I mean, that's just not real good.
Think of that jersey with all the quarterback names on it, right? And we finally had somebody that we can kind of settle on that's not necessarily, is going to actually win games for you. We just, we actually won an entire season with the plans to start Deshaun Kaiser, for Christ's sake.
Oh, Lord.
I mean, how come we didn't run outside today? And I don't know if you saw who was coming through the line, and no, there was no. I mean, they were in the backfield before anybody was there. I mean, what I think the game plan was predicated on the fact that Stefanski knew that Harris and Lamb can't run block. That's what I believe. Is that came to the conclusion that because right off the bat we were throwing the football, that was the only way. And when you throw 53 times, you're going to turn the ball over. And this has been proven with Baker. It's been proven with Roethlisberger. It's been proven with every good quarterback and anyone in between. If you're forced,
you never win. If you got the ball in your hand that many times, three. What's the old Woody Hayes thing? If you throw the ball, two bad things can happen, and only one good thing can happen. Well,
and again, because we ran a sneak that easily got the yardage 2 or 3 times previously in the game. And handing the ball off behind the line of scrimmage when Chubb was snuffed for 0-yard gains and minus yards on several occasions would not have been a good call.
We had a lot of tackles for losses on running the ball. So, the sneak was the only play that made sense there.
Well, it was, like you said, it was successful twice. And both times they gained 3 yards on it. Not just a yard. They gained 3 on it. So... you're running behind the best guys left on the line, your center and your left guard, and you're going to try to move the pile. So, it's just, it was one of those disappointing things that going into the game, the fact that we had a chance at all, just knowing that you had none of your receivers is just,
I'm pointing to this idiotic comment here. Who is
this guy? I'm sorry, Tom. You may be a very nice guy, but the short bus is leaving. I mean, you better get on. You better hop on.
You have time to work on fucking trick plays.
When you can't block a straight running play, you're going to run a trick play with people who have never played on the field together. That's great thinking, and you're like, well, we can't turn the ball over, but how come we're not running trick plays? It's like brain surgery for you, Bucky. All right. My goodness. And, here's, go up to Georgia, San Juan, and see if you can get the presidential election turned over to your side. Stop pointing fingers. You're not a fan. Get out of here. The fact is we live and we die with our football team. It's disappointing to me. And you got to know, I've been doing this show now with 2021 coming. So it'll be 17 years. And, I stand by this team, win, lose, or draw. And
it's your fault they haven't made the playoffs because
we were doing this during the 1-32 time. You were sitting there in the afternoon just talking about not trying to talk us all out of not taking the gas pipe over at the car. I mean, this is let's go back at the beginning of this whole season. And I was looking at some stuff. There's one of the guys on one of our chat groups in Facebook who's actually a former Brown.
Hi, San Juan. Bye-bye.
There's one of the guys who was actually a former coach of the Browns back in the late 80s and early 90s. He was part of Marty's regime. And he was just talking about, he posted something about when they hired Stefanski and how people are like, how did we not get this person? How we didn't get, and all the comments were just hilarious. They're like, oh, we'll be lucky if we go 8-8. Hey, we've won 10 games already in a year where we've had, potentially times when we've had major players out of the game and one of our early draft picks lose the entire season and our draft pick from the year before lose the entire season. the fact that we're starting Andrew Sendejo in the backfield, and
Hey,
we're
he made a good
won 10
tackle.
games. He made a great play. This is the best play Sendejo made the entire season. Man, he nailed it. And you see Baker right there cheering him on. That was great. They gave him a chance to win. And you just don't have the guys to do it. Okay, that's what happened. This is one of those we expected to win. But when I saw that thing yesterday, and I just went, wait, we have no wide receivers? What the hell are we going to do? And then you find out that Wills is out as well. And that Teller's still out. I mean, you're just like, and look at what the line did last year without Conklin, without Wills, and how they were just getting manhandled last year, and how many times Baker got crushed.
I mean,
and how many,
important a guy like Hubbard is, being kind of like a jack of all trades. He's not a great offensive lineman, but he can play tackle, he can play guard, and you can see what happened with the drop off to Kendall Lamb is just too great. He was a horrible player in Houston, and he's a horrible player in Cleveland. I'm sorry. The scheme hasn't helped Kendall Lamb one bit. He's slow on his feet, and he gets beat off the line of scrimmage. And you're right, Michael Ryan. There was one season where halfway through the year, I hated the coach so badly, I just said, fuck it. And the coach was fired. So I think that there are situations, I never stop supporting the team. And, the fact that I don't get paid a nickel to do this damn thing, this is just for fun. And
wait, we're not getting paid for this?
No, didn't I tell you?
Shit.
You never come on a Jewish guy's podcast. For God, you should know better. Yeah. And again, this is what real fans. Hold on a second, Brock. I'll get to you in a minute. And what Mark is saying, you can't criticize Stefanski. He is organized. He's done a fine job. I mean, you really can't argue about that. What's up?
I have to pop off, but I just want to hear the Peter Ellis play the game. But I gotta leave.
Okay.
Got people going to bed here.
Oh, the momentum's shifted and the Browns have an opportunity. And out to kick, that looks like Doink the Clown. Oh, professional wrestler and kicker for the Cleveland Browns. And the kick, Doink. Oh, Parky. Oh, that's why I call you Parkinson's, because you shake, shake, shake. Shake, shake, shake. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm dead. I forgot. I'm sorry. Yeah, play of the game. It's a momentum killer. Parkey was a momentum killer to sit there. How many times this year have we scored a touchdown and then right afterwards he misses an extra point? It really brings the team down, and it changes the complexion of the game, because you have to go from the thing like, ooh, we could tie it with a field goal. Well, not with this kicker. And, and if we score a touchdown, we'd be up 4 and not 3, you see? So they'd have to score a touchdown in order to win. It changes the whole complexion of the game.
Well, maybe one last comment. If that kick had gone through, then we would have had a pressure field goal for him to make to tie the game, and he would have never have made that. So maybe it's just as well. But
you don't have faith in the Parkey?
No. I'll see you guys tomorrow. I gotta go.
Okay, take care. But as far as Greedy Williams, I've read about the injury that he has. And if there is no improvement in a matter of 3 to 4 months, he has to have surgery. And the truth of the matter is that he's not getting better. And when that's the case, even surgery may not change the outcome. His career could be over. All right. I did extensive reading about that injury because I was curious. I'd never heard of it before. Usually what happens, that nerve gets damaged when there's a shoulder separation. And this is a peculiar circumstance, like in car accidents and things that are like real traumatic force injuries. I don't know what the story is, but that's the outcome. They say if in 3 to 4 months of conservative care, it doesn't go away and get better on its own, that then surgery becomes an option. But surgery would be for an everyday Joe guy, not a guy who hits with his shoulders in professional football. So do not be surprised if you never see him on the field again. Don't be surprised. Yeah, no stipends. I'm sorry. No Christmas gifts, no nothing. I mean, I'm Scrooge. We're screwed. You're Scrooged. It's disappointing. And when I saw how this thing, when I saw the first possession of the game, I turned to Roxanne and I said, it's going to be a long day. Because you could see our scripted plays have been so good this year. And
they just didn't look, like you said, in sync. You
Right.
had people playing out of position. Even when you had all the tight ends in there playing wide receiver plays, frequently they're put in slots or they're put out wide or whatever the case is. There's nobody there to stretch the field. There's nobody there to do whatever. The fact that in the second half they mounted and were able to get in 2 touchdowns was pretty incredible. It was one of those kind of things where you're just like, it's just very frustrating that we had to play this at all. And, but it's been a great season so far. We've got 10 wins. How many of these last 10 years would we've been thrilled to have 10 wins at this point?
And I'll tell you something else. I guess, to be the best, you got to beat the best. And I've never been one who believed when they splintered off heavyweight championships into WBO, WBC, WBA, and so we had 3 simultaneous different champions. One guy was always the best. One guy was always way better, and the others were just fictitious titles. And I say you got to beat the best to be the best. And again, so you have an opportunity. If you beat the Steelers, you get in. If you don't beat the Steelers, you don't. It's just that simple. And really, in a fair world, we should have to beat the first string, full bore strength Steelers, not a watered down version. And, thanks, Joe. We appreciate it. And, and again, we're getting a lot of backlash from negative fans. 10 wins is better than the sex you've had for the last however many years of your life, Mark A. Lewis Jr. 10 wins for the Cleveland Browns was not a predictable thing. I don't know what y'all expect for the first year of a head coach in a COVID-stricken year, and to get struck down like this by the virus in week 16. I don't know what you want. I know what I want, and I've had an entertaining time, and I'm sticking with my team through week 17 and see what happens.
No preseason, no extra mini camps for the new coach. All those things that we didn't get this year that normally a brand new head coach gets. Just the fact that they got that opportunity to do that has been great. And the fact that you actually go into the game thinking we have a chance, not wondering if there is anything, it's just one of those kind of things. So,
something, Jacob Leslie, you're wrong about Wyatt Teller. Wyatt Teller, I would not be surprised if he's on the field against the Steelers. That guy's a tough motherfucker. Don't go there. As far as Delpit, what are you going to do? A guy tears an ACL. You're going to sit there and you're going to say he's not tough. Greedy Williams is frail. I'll agree with you. He never had a healthy moment. And I think but we knew, and we talked about Greedy Williams. The only guy on our panel was Derek Frisbee, who wanted Greedy Williams. And I said to him, he's dropping like a rock. And the reason is that he can't hit. He's hit averse. That was the rap on him in the draft. And if you go back and watch those old Moohead shows, they're not that old, you can get a glimpse of that. But, for every guy I say they shouldn't get, there are guys who turn out to be way better than I ever thought they would be. It's a hit and miss proposition. Nobody questioned Greedy's athleticism, but he had a reluctance to hit. And now it turns out at this level, his body is frail. And you're seeing it in athletes who are just prone to injury. And it's an unfortunate thing. So, and this is what I look at too. We do have a sustainable front office and a sustainable head coach and a plan. And moving forward, that's more than we've had in God knows how long. And Mark, I agree with you here. When you have that little time to put together, and you're doing a walkthrough in a parking garage, for goodness sakes, with guys who are like, how do I get to where I'm going here? Guys who are just off of a practice squad who were not even running reps with the quarterback. And the reason it was as close as it was because the Jets just tried like mad. I mean, when they threw the ball on 3rd and 1, I was going, holy shit, they may yet hand us the game. I don't know. That's the reason why it was close. It was too bad. I think Baker tries. The tendency with Baker is to take too much onto his shoulders. And I think that when he does that, it hurts the team. I think that the more the ball is kind of distributed, the better off we are. And asking him to, when he fumbled on a previous sneak in the previous game, and everyone who was there knew what we were going to do with an offensive line that was questionable. That's kind of the way it works, And we're going to get a little bit from Spinner Dave before we get out of here. Dave, what do you think?
Man, they just couldn't come back with all that they've lost. All the wide receivers. But here's one thing I got to say about reason I jumped on real quick. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Reason I jumped on real quick is it wasn't a gathering that they had. It's being reported that they all used the same recovery tub as him, and that's why.
Okay. Well, I mean, and the thing that's amazing, I was just going over something with somebody that they said that COVID really couldn't be transmitted from food. And the other thing was that at 158 degrees Fahrenheit cooked, the COVID can't survive. But we know that if it's a whirlpool kind of thing, it never reaches anywhere near that high a Fahrenheit temperature. Consequently,
I hope not.
Yeah, right.
Wide receiver soup, man.
Yeah, boiled to the bone. Boiled. Okay.
So they wasn't partying. Okay.
Thank goodness. But it was what it was. It was this. It sucks. It really does. And, but there's the thing. If any one of them, it could have been something else. They could have come in contact with somebody and they'd all be shut down as well because they're all together in the receiver's room.
Right.
I mean, it's the way that this is. So, it sucks it had to happen this week because this week should have been a W.
Yes.
It's the way it is.
Well, and, Doggy Bones, that was the name of my junior high band, A Pool of Germs. And, we were good. We were good back then. And that was one of our phases. And actually the way we got the name, it was kind of a play on words because two of the guys, myself being one of them, and the other, my last name is Steenbarger. We were both German. So we were a pool of germs. You get it? That was kind of.
Got it.
And it kind of came and went like our junior high bands did. But, hey, that was, So
I thought it was when Pat Smear was subbing in on guitar for Drowning Pool. So because he used to be in the German.
And I want you to know right off the front that Tony the Calf was in the beginning of the show was waiting in the wings to come on the show. And I kibosh. Okay. And the reason I want to say that is because this show is for Cleveland Browns fans, not for people trolling Cleveland Browns fans on social media. And the fact is that Hammer and Dave, you were with me I know that you're a Browns fan through and through. And I know that we all live and die with the Cleveland Browns. A lot of the people in this chat room, even the guys who I know how frustrated y'all are. And I'm trying to, buoy your spirits and just have you focus on the glass half full instead of the glass half empty. I know you bleed right now because the Browns, it's important to you. I get that. We're all hurting right now. But when you have somebody who is a Vikings fan and a Timberwolves fan and just constantly badmouths the Browns on social media, I'm not letting that on the air after this. And he was already starting in the chat room before the show began and starting with some of the bullshit. No time for that. If you want to come on here and talk sense, that's one thing. But if you're just trolling, no time for that. No time. And the fact of the matter is that this really is a fan-based program. And I want to keep things at this point as positive as possible. The national media is going to get down on them, and they're going to do everything to crush their spirits even more. And if we can win next week and we get into the playoffs again, if you should watch my Saturday bonus show. We talked about what it takes to win, how to win, and it comes from losing, folks. All winning comes from losing. The only thing I can think of might be a lottery ticket, but most people who win the lottery have bought countless losers, okay? And they happen to hit it once. Every gambler will tell you if you can't stand losing, you can't keep in the game. Winning is achieved from experience, and sometimes that experience is a losing experience. Before we criticize the organization and blame people, why don't we sit back and see how the Browns do next week? The only thing I'm concerned about is the health of the team. And I really believe that there's going to be more that springs forth from this, and that concerns me tremendously.
I hope not, because if we win, we're in next week. And I also read just a minute ago, if we lose and Miami and Colts lose, we're still in. So,
yeah, and again,
then you got to go to Pittsburgh and play Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh. Either way, it's gonna, there you go.
Yeah, and then we'd have to play them the first game in the playoffs again.
And you know what will happen? Baker will get COVID, and Kelly Holcomb will be the quarterback. It's like, well, yeah, there's a total a time warp, a hot tub time machine, and then Webster Slaughter will drop a pass on the sidelines when it looks like it's certain that we're going to win. Look, it's a week-to-week thing, and the Browns now have a chance to regroup, and I hope that our whole team will get to sink or swim together. That's what I hope, and that we can grow from this and get better. That's what this is about. So everybody, yes, there was a Saturday show. If you check the Moohead archives, I didn't do a Friday show because of the holiday and family gathering. However, I'm going to say family gathering. There was one person with us, and I think that it could be explained that it is the wife of my father who's in the hospital who has had 2 strokes. So, and having her over to the house to join us so that she didn't have to be alone cooking dinner for herself. I didn't want people to think that I'm talking the way I'm talking and throwing a big shebang here in my house. Not the case. But, it's our opportunity to embrace the Cleveland Browns and try to shelter them from the storm of criticism that's going to come their way. So it's bound to happen.
By the way, I watched your Saturday thing. That was very well done.
Thanks. And I think sometimes people forget that, nobody starts out just winning. And I wanted to point out LeBron James came to Cleveland as the second coming out of high school, right? And the team didn't exactly win, when he came out. It took a couple of years to get going. And we had a surprise appearance with a Spurs team that wiped us out in 4 straight, where we weren't in any of the games. And we didn't belong in that finals, quite honestly, but we managed to get there. But we learned from that. Everything that was a failure the first time around with LeBron came back the second time. There was a failure because of Kelly Olynyk fouling intentionally and separating Kevin Love's shoulder. and that wiped us out in the first year. In the second year, it wiped us out when Kyrie Irving's knee went out. And finally, we got a Game 7. And everything that happened to that organization came full circle, and we won the championship. So to get to the playoffs, it's going to take a little bit of winning and a little bit of losing and a lot of character building. Let's hope that it takes place.
Yep.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in to this post-game show. We'll be back again tomorrow with Moohead Radio, 6 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, and we'll look ahead. We'll have more information about playoffs and all that good stuff and what we need to do or whether it's hopeful or less hopeful. And we're going to be following the news about testing because there's going to be a lot of testing within the Browns organization because of contact tracing and keep our fingers crossed that nobody else, comes up with the actual symptoms and the positive test, because that would just be death. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. I'll see you again tomorrow. Until then, hasta la vista, Pastor Heads. Good night.